Okay. Take it, let's go.
You ready to start? Huh? You ready to start? Good morning, everyone. Today, we are here to talk about this level of police-initiated violence that has erupted across this nation. As we look at the context of the violence, we are concerned about several things which expose the disparities within our criminal justice system, the failure of various prosecutors to initiate criminal charges against police who shoot and kill unarmed African Americans merely because they are walking while black on the streets of Minneapolis, Chicago, and all around the nation, St. Louis, Kansas City, Missouri, Baltimore, New York. And so today, Reverend Jackson and Bishop Tavis Grant will give you a report on the latest eruption in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We are concerned, and so I want to present to you the man who's never stopped working, the guy who has continued to lift up these issues, to challenge the systems, to speak truth to power each and every day of his life, none other than our national president, our international president, our founder, the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson.
Thank you, Sister Jeanette. I want to indicate the last 3 days Bishop Grant has been to Kenosha. Bishop Grant is our national field director and a spokesman for the organization. To get to know who Bishop Grant is. He's a member of our organization. And I want him to lay out to you the dimension of Kenosha which has not been dealt with. Focus on Jacob Blake being shot, but Rittenhouse killed 2 white guys. Reminiscent of 1963, 2 whites and black were killed, Serena Goodman Cheney. The 2 whites were killed and the black was severely injured, gunshots to the back. I want Bishop to share with you now, and then I'll come back to you and talk a bit about the pattern. Bishop Grant.
My name is Bishop Tavis Grant, T-A-V-I-S-G-R-A-N-T. I serve as the National Field Director for the Rainbow Push Coalition. Our prayers today are with the victims of Kenosha, Jacob Blake and his family, Anthony Huber and his family, Joseph Rosenbaum and his family lost their lives, and Gage Grosskreutz, who is now in recovery. Like Cheney, Goodman, and Swerner, Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum have their lives taken from them in the most gross and heinous way by a misguided young person who shouldn't have had a weapon, acting as law enforcement and or militia. Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old from nearby Antioch, Illinois, was armed in Kenosha as a part of a group of counter-protesters. Believe it or not, Kyle Rittenhauser and Trayvon Martin are the same age. But the difference is Rittenhouse had an automatic weapon and Trayvon Martin had Skittles and some iced tea. Tamir Rice was shot for carrying and killed for carrying a toy gun. Stephon Watts was killed here in Calumet City over a kitchen knife. But here today, we have the scenes all over social media and all over media platforms of Kyle Rittenhouse carrying a long, loaded, automatic weapon, giving water and aid by police and sheriff. As today we commemorate the 57th March on Washington, we also remember Emmett Till 65 years ago. And we've heard reports of circumstances surrounding Kyle Rittenhouse, which are disturbing and greatly disappointing. We've heard reports that Kyle Rittenhouse's mother drove him to Kenosha, and there are photographs circling on many platforms of her dressed in camouflage and carrying a long automatic weapon as well. Perhaps she drove him to Kenosha from Antioch because his driver's license is suspended. Is it ironic that in America you cannot drive a car without a driver's license, but you can open carry a long rifle automatic weapon in the midst of what is supposed to be a peaceful protest? And so the attempt to sterilize Rittenhouse as a patriot is at the heart of why this virus of racism is so entrenched and so intrinsic in the American culture and the fabric. People like Brian Urlacher, who fraternize, patronize, sympathize, and empathize with these people, let's be clear. Let's be very, very clear. Let's be crystal clear that vigilantism in America is a crime. It should be punished as a crime. And those who commit the crime should be treated as criminals. And so today, Reverend Jackson is joining along with the ACLU, asking and demanding the resignation of both the police chief and the sheriff. And Reverend Jackson will share in detail that request. We want to ask, we're going to bring a young lady on right now whose name is Danielle Rossum, and she is from Kenosha. She wants to share right now with you and the media, particularly how this came about, how it was organized, and how this young man became a killer at a peaceful protest. Danielle?
Yes. Okay, so there was a social media event created by Kevin Mathewson, former Alderman Kevin Mathewson of Kenosha, Wisconsin, and it was calling for armed citizens to gather in the streets as a militia to protect businesses and homes against rioting and looting. So this event grew at an alarming rate. It was reported to Facebook. Facebook failed to take it down until after the event. So this was the event that the shooter responded to. It was advertised on InfoWars and many other sites irresponsibly. People were not vetted. And tomorrow, Angie Aker, a friend of mine, will be filing charges against Mr. Mathewson here in Kenosha. And we expect him to be held accountable. There is a petition going around on change.org. Please make sure that you sign it. We need to hold former Alderman Kevin Mathewson of Kenosha, Wisconsin, responsible for his role in the death of 2 and the injury of 1.
Thank you, Danielle. It is important, as Reverend Jackson comes back, to be very clear about this. This kind of behavior is not akin to civil rights. It is not associated with civil disobedience. It is criminal in every dynamic and every degree. Imagine, if you will, had Jacob Blake, an African American, in the middle of the night, walking through Milwaukee, walking through Chicago, walking through Kenosha with a long rifle automatic weapon loaded during a curfew. It should be first and foremost that armed individuals are immediately removed from the streets. At a curfew, this young man was given water, aid, and even accepted and received appreciation from sheriff and police officers that night. It is illegal, it is immoral, and we have had enough. We want justice for Jacob Blake. Thank you, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
I want the media to have a copy of Pierce Rosenbaum and Anthony Huber, because they've not been properly focused on because they don't fit the narrative of white on black crime. The 2 who killed were white. Injured was white. Rittenhouse came to Kenosha for violent purposes. The gun belongs to his parents. And so we will not rest until that matter is put in perspective. Well, there were 2 issues. Bishop will talk more about the Rittenhouse case because he's working on that case. One, pattern of police involved shooting killings and violent response. Trayvon Martin killed, killer walks away. Every gunner killed, police walk away. Michael Brown killed, killer walks away. Juan McDonald, killer walks away. 400 days, $5 million spent hush money. First police convicted in 50 years. George Floyd, the killer, walks away. Breonna Taylor in Kentucky, killer walks away. Jacob Blake, Anthony Huber, Joseph Rosenbaum, the killer walks away. And so it is that this pattern is what must be addressed in a very major way. I think that when the president puts a lot of focus on looting, trying to paint a picture of blacks who engage in righteous rebellion, he is misleading the country. He mentioned the fact that this kid is a fan of his. Open carry, you can do it, was he had the right to carry the rifle down the street. Police knew who he was. He was not the only one. Second, the issue of the athletes. Athletes have a glorious history of fighting back for justice. In the Bible, David and Samson, not intended to be emancipators. Jack Johnson fought in the 20s, knocked down a white man, committed 5,000 lynchings against blacks. He was finally jailed and imprisoned. Jesse Owens, 1936 Olympics. I asked Ms. Owens, I said, Jesse, why did you get upset when Hillary didn't shake your hand and say, Roosevelt didn't shake my hand either? Jack Robinson in baseball, 47. It was like one of Jack Robinson, 25 years later, Rainbow Push organized in Woodlawn a celebration for Jackie Robinson, and baseball honored him 25 years later. Muhammad Ali, principal position against the unjust, unnecessary war. Athletes, Kurt Flood, every athlete in America today who gets free agency, black or white, and the world's the world because of Kurt Flood. You can't sell me, he said. 30th Amendment, he couldn't play baseball, he changed the scenario. And so it is that today we thank God for these athletes. I think LeBron James deserves a Nobel Prize, really. And basketball has set a pace for our country. They're not just entertainers, they're men, they're women. And the thing is, they know that many of them, their owners are Trump supporters. They travel between owners who are oppressive in their politics and fans who are indifferent to them once they take the uniform off. The athletes are standing up. We encourage them we stand with them as long as they stand up. I want to open it up for questions and discussion. Or the sheriff. Press, please hear this.
Lock them away for the rest of their lives.
No,
Let's put them in jail. Let's stop.
This is the sheriff talking. Oh, sorry.
A threshold where there's some people that aren't worth saving. We need to build warehouses to put these people into it and lock them away for the rest of their lives. Let's put them in jail. Let's stop them from truly, at least some of these males going out and getting 10 other women pregnant and having small children. Let's put them away. At some point, we have to stop being politically correct. And I don't care what race, I don't care how old they are. If there's a threshold that they cross, these people have to be warehoused.
This is consistent with Trump saying here in Illinois, attack protesters. If you do, I'll pay the bill. Put them in the paddy wagon, don't be delicate. Let them hit their heads on the paddy wagon. There's a moral deficit, there's a moral desert at the top of our country. We deserve better. So, questions, media? Thank you, Attorney Jeanette and Reverend Bishop Grant. Men of Omega, thank you very much for coming down from Kenosha. Oh, the other thing that we didn't try to yesterday, that Jacob Blake is in the hospital,
Paralyzed.
shackled to the bed
Wow, paralyzed.
while paralyzed.
Wow, 1 minute.
Some years ago, a bus driver in Chicago was shackled to the bed. We want him to take the shackles off of Jacob and indict the killer. Shackles off of Jacoby and indict the killer. I mean, the shooter. Attempted murder 7 times in the back. He meant to kill him. He was not successful. Questions?
Reverend, if Rittenhouse mother gave him a gun and brought him to the protest, which some people say that she did, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it's true, what should happen to her?
He was too young to buy the gun. The gun belonged to his parents. One or both of his parents drove him to Kenosha across state lines. Because of the Wisconsin has open, he had the right to carry the gun down the street. But there had been many appeals by groups in Kenosha. There was mass mobilization to injure, to kill demonstrators, and he did just that.
She could be considered an accomplice.
She's obviously an accomplice in the murder.
Yeah.
Next. I'm going to close. The members of the press want you to, the matter of these police killings. Can you imagine if every night there was a white mother on TV crying because they've been shot by black police? It would be a different scene today. The time of having to cry in the face of these driving while black and shot while black. It must end. We have today, I was in Washington marching in 1963, just left jail in Greensboro, North Carolina. At that time, we didn't have the right to vote. Today, we have a 6-day countdown to change the condition of America. We can only dream and pray in 63. Today, we have the right to fight back. With the vote, we urge people to be nonviolent and disciplined. They want to use violent demonstrations as commercials for Trump. We know that the right wing move afoot today. We resist with all of our might. Members of the press?
You don't have any.
If Dr. King were alive today, Reverend Jackson, what do you think he would be doing?
Huh?
If Dr. King were alive today, what do you think he would be doing?
That can become for massive discipline direct action, march on the Department of Justice. Chicago, case in point. Cormac Doll was shot 16 times. Police lied, said he was coming down with a knife. They paid $5 million in hush money, 400 days to cover up 16 shots, and the man dead. This patterns across the country. That's why we as a people must stand up and fight back. A burden upon the white church in Kenosha and in Wisconsin, because these children are not limited to one side of town. All of us, none of us can be saved until all of us are saved. Thank you. Thank you, friends.
Thank you very much.